I met Evan when I was 23. He was charming, successful, and had this calmness that grounded me. We started dating quickly. I introduced him to my family about 6 months in. My mom was warm and friendly, as always hugging him tightly, joking with him right away. I was happy she liked him. But I didn't realize how much she liked him. In the beginning, I chalked it up to friendliness. She's always been warm to people, but soon I started noticing things. Evan would laugh harder at her jokes than mine. She'd call him randomly, even when I wasn't around. Once, I came home from work early and found them sitting at the kitchen table the two of them laughing with wine glasses in their hands, like they were on a date. I brushed it off, because who thinks like that? Who suspects that their boyfriend is flirting with their mother? But the signs kept piling up. She started dressing differently when she knew he was coming over more makeup, tighter clothes. I told myself I was being paranoid. The moment everything shattered was during a weekend I was out of town visiting a friend. I left my iPad at home. It was synced to my phone, and a message popped up from Evan. Something I can never forget. I miss your hands on me. Last night was wow. I froze. My first thought was, no, please, no. Then the message that followed confirmed it all. She doesn't know anything, and she won't. Promise me, okay? The she was me. The person he sent it to? My mother. I remember the screaming in my own head more than anything else. I confronted both of them that night over video. My mom didn't even try to deny it. She cried. Said it just happened and that she didn't mean for it to go so far. Evan tried to lie at first, then admitted it. Said they connected emotionally before anything physical started. I left the next day, packed a bag, stayed with a friend, and disappeared for a while. The betrayal tore through my identity. How do you grieve a mother who's still alive, but no longer someone you can ever trust again? How do you erase the image of your partner touching someone who held you as a child? It's been 2 years. I cut both of them out of my life. I still have nightmares sometimes. Therapy helped, but I don't think I'll ever fully heal. What I've learned, though, is that betrayal doesn't define you, your response does. I rebuilt my life, little by little. And while I'll never forget what they did, I'm finally learning how to live again without the weight of their choices crushing me. Betrayal on 2 fronts is a uniquely devastating experience, when the people you love the most wound you in a way that's both intimate and unimaginable. For me, the realization that my boyfriend was cheating on me was already a painful concept to process. But the gut-wrenching truth that he was doing it with my own mother created a rupture in my reality that couldn't be stitched together. The betrayal wasn't just about physical infidelity, it was about trust, family, and emotional safety being ripped away in a matter of seconds. I had always believed that, no matter what happened in life, my mum would be my safe place. She raised me mostly on her own, and we had what I thought was an unshakable bond. And with Evan, I thought I had found the person who finally saw, me rarely saw, who I was. I trusted both of them with different pieces of myself. My mum had my history, my heart. Evan had my future, my hope. When I found out they were having an affair, it felt like my past and future conspired to destroy my present. The worst part wasn't even the sexual betrayal. It was the emotional manipulation. The subtle moments I'd brushed off as coincidence, how my mother would always find a way to sit next to him at family dinners. How they'd exchange glances I thought were just friendly. How sometimes Evan would mention conversations they'd had that I wasn't even aware of. In hindsight, they were forming a connection right in front of me, while I stood there, oblivious, smiling and trusting. The shame that followed was unbearable. How could I not have seen it? How could I have trusted them so easily, so blindly? The betrayal didn't happen. In one explosive moment it was slow, insidious. And that's what made it worse. They made me question my instincts. Every time I noticed something odd, I gaslit myself, told myself I was overthinking, that I was insecure, that I was projecting my past traumas onto a healthy relationship. I even remember having a conversation with Evan about my trust issues, and he assured me so sweetly, so convincingly, that he was all in. I shared my fears with him, my vulnerabilities, and all the while, he was already crossing lines with the one woman I never imagined would betray me. When I read that message on my iPad, it didn't just expose the affair, it destroyed my inner world. The emotional whiplash was unbearable. I felt like I'd stepped into a reality that didn't belong to me, like my life had become someone else's sick story. I kept rereading the messages, not to torture myself, but because I couldn't believe it. My brain needed proof that I wasn't dreaming. That yes, the man I planned to marry was talking to my mother like a lover. That he was hiding their affair under the roof I had shared with both of them, using the trust I gave freely as a shield for their lies. The psychological toll was brutal. I couldn't even cry properly. I shook. I dry-heaved. I remember locking myself in the bathroom and just staring at my own face in the mirror, swollen, ghost-like. I called my best friend, stammering half-sentences, unable to form the full thought because even saying it out loud made it real. My mom, my boyfriend, together, behind my back, under my nose, while I loved them both deeply. Even after confronting them, I found myself searching for a reasonable explanation, as if any explanation could make sense of something so cruel. I wanted one of them to say it was a mistake, that it hadn't gone far. But instead, I got justifications. My mum said she hadn't felt desired in years, that Evan listened to her in a way no one had. Evan said he was confused, that he didn't plan it, that emotions got involved. It was like hearing two people rationalize stabbing me in the back while I was still bleeding on the floor. The betrayal fractured my sense of self. If your own mother can betray you, if the man who holds you at night can kiss your mum behind your back, then what is safe? Who is safe? That was the question I sat with every night in the weeks that followed. I didn't just lose a relationship, I lost the foundation of trust I'd built my world on. And once that's gone, it takes a long, long time to rebuild. Emotional entanglement is the part of infidelity that people rarely talk about, but for me, it was the most haunting element of what happened. What tore me up wasn't just that my boyfriend and my mother slept together, it was that they felt something for each other. It wasn't just a mistake made in a drunken blur. It was intimate. It was gradual. It was, in its own twisted way, a relationship developing right in front of me while I stood there, unaware, unknowingly playing the role of the fool in their growing connection. That emotional intimacy between them was what truly fractured me, because physical cheating can be explained by lust, but emotional cheating? That's a choice, again and again, one small boundary crossed after another, until they're sharing things they were supposed to share with me. It started with things I thought were harmless. My mom would talk about Evan like he was part of the family almost immediately. I was happy at first. What girlfriend doesn't want her mom and boyfriend to get along? But then, there were long conversations between them that didn't include me. Sometimes, I'd walk into a room and they'd stop talking and just smile at me like nothing had happened. I remember once Evan said something like, "Your mom and I had the most interesting talk about spirituality last night." And I blinked, confused. Last night. I'd already gone to bed. I hadn't even known they were talking after I fell asleep. They were building a connection in the shadows, and I mistook it for friendship. What made it worse was how natural they were around each other. I caught them exchanging these soft, knowing glances sometimes. The kind of glances that feel like inside jokes. And it wasn't just physical attraction. They understood each other in ways that made me uncomfortable once I started really noticing. Evan once said my mom reminded him of his favorite professor, wise, open-minded, strong. At the time, I brushed it off as a compliment, but I remember how my stomach twisted. Something felt too personal, too admiring. I ignored the discomfort, because acknowledging it meant opening a door I wasn't ready to look behind. That emotional pull between them created this quiet war inside me. I didn't want to be the paranoid girlfriend. I didn't want to accuse my mom of anything vile. But I started to feel like an outsider in my own relationship. Like I was orbiting a bond I wasn't part of. They had their own rhythm, their own rapport, and I was just the one holding them together, giving them space under the same roof to get closer, while I was left trying to explain away my own gut instincts. When I tried to talk to Evan about it, he made me feel crazy. He'd say things like, "You're overthinking it," or "Don't be jealous of your own mum." That one hurt especially. I wasn't. Jealousy was scared. Scared of something I couldn't name yet. My mum, for her part, would wave it off too. "He's like a son to me," she said once. That line rings in my head to this day. A son. I think about that and wonder how she could cross that line after saying those words. It makes me sick now. The emotional closeness between them was something they nurtured slowly, like a secret garden behind my back. And in that space, they were honest with each other in ways they weren't with me. After everything came out, I went back and read more of the messages between them, and it was those messages, not the sexual ones, that broke me. My mother talking about feeling understood. Evan saying, she got him more than anyone ever had. The emotional intimacy was so thick, so sincere. It made me feel like a third wheel in my own relationship. It made me wonder if I had ever really been the one he loved, or if I was just the bridge that led him to her. There's something especially cruel about emotional cheating because it's so hard to prove. There's no lipstick on a collar, no hotel receipts. It's eye contact. It's deep conversations. It's 1,000 tiny choices to connect in ways they never should. And that ambiguity gave them room to pretend it wasn't serious until the day I found out it was. They had already convinced themselves they deserved that connection. They told themselves it was harmless. But in the end, the emotional lines they crossed were just as damaging, if not more, than the physical act itself. Even now, I don't know if they were ever planning to come clean. Maybe they would have kept it going in the shadows, pretending everything was normal, while I sat between them, blind and trusting. That's what emotional cheating does. It rots things from the inside, quietly, until you wake up one day and realize everything you thought was solid has already crumbled. The aftermath of discovering the affair wasn't a moment of clarity or closure, it was chaos. Confronting them didn't bring answers or healing, only more questions, confusion, and raw pain. When I confronted Evan, he tried to lie at first. His denial was so rehearsed, it almost sounded like the truth. He played the victim, acting like he was being wrongly accused, turning it back on me. Why are you always so suspicious? But when I read the messages out loud, when I quoted them word for word, the colour drained from his face. He knew he was caught. That's when his defences cracked, and he admitted to it not with remorse, but with justification. He said it wasn't what I thought, that it started with deep conversations, that it wasn't just physical, and somehow that made it better in his mind. He said he didn't mean for it to happen. As if that changed anything. The confrontation with my mum was even harder. She didn't try to deny it. She cried, yes, but not in the way I needed her to. Not with guilt. Her tears felt like regret for getting caught. I could see the panic in her eyes, not heartbreak. She said it just happened, as if the betrayal was some accident that fell out of the sky. She talked about feeling lonely, about Evan being kind to her in a way she hadn't felt in years. I stood there listening to her, my own mother, rationalize sleeping with my boyfriend, and I felt like I had stepped out of my own body. I couldn't hear everything clearly. It was like the room was underwater, my ears ringing from the pressure of emotions crashing all at once. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I just stood still, while my entire world cracked in two. After those confrontations, I went completely numb. There were no dramatic scenes, no shouting matches. It was colder than that. Silence became my shield. I packed my bags and left. I didn't even know where I was going at first eye. Just knew I couldn't be in that house, near either of them. I stayed with a friend and tried to make sense of the disaster I had just crawled out of. But nothing made sense. My mind kept replaying every conversation, every moment that seemed innocent, but now felt poisoned. It wasn't just about what they did. It was about the fact that neither of them stopped it. Neither of them protected me. And worse, neither of them seemed to truly understand the depth of what they had destroyed. Rebuilding myself was slow and brutal. The betrayal affected more than just my relationship status. It cracked my sense of identity. I began to question everything. My ability to judge people, my instincts, my worth. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it, how I let it happen, how I could ever trust again. I couldn't look at pictures of myself from that time without feeling sick. I looked happy in them. I looked safe. But now I knew, better I knew, that girl was already living in the middle of a lie. That realization shattered something in me. Therapy became my lifeline. Not because it gave me answers, but because it gave me space to feel without judgment. My therapist helped me peel back the layers of damage. The betrayal had created not just heartbreak, but shama-deep, bitter shame. I felt embarrassed for being fooled. Embarrassed that I had talked about Evan to my friends like he was the one. Ashamed that I hadn't seen the signs in my mum. Ashamed that I still missed them, in fleeting moments, even after everything. I went no contact with both of them. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I had to protect myself. Every message my mom tried to send after that, every apology, felt hollow. Evan tried reaching out 2 letters, emails, saying he was broken, that he made a mistake, that he still loved me. But I didn't want love that came at the cost of my dignity. Their apologies didn't undo what they did. They didn't unbreak the trust they shattered. What they did changed the entire fabric of how I view relationships, loyalty, and family. In the end, I realized that closure wasn't something they could give me. It had to come from within, from accepting that what happened wasn't my fault, that their choices reflected them, not me. Rebuilding meant redefining love, trust, and safety on my own terms. I started taking back my routines, setting new boundaries, opening up to friends who held space for my pain. Slowly, I began to feel like myself, again no, the person I was before, but someone stronger. Someone who survived betrayal by the 2 people who should have protected me, still found a way to breathe again.